So, today I'd like to talk a moment about creationism, the so-called scientific idea that a single external deity created the entire world in 6 days, and the supposed scientific evidence that they have to back this up. When I was in high school, I would earn money in the summertime by helping to... I had an elderly neighbor who had 2 hip replacements and she was going blind, and she needed help with some of her house chores. So her family would pay me to go over, help her, vacuum her floors and read her mail and whatnot. And she was a very devout Christian, and one day I was taking a break. She turned on the radio to a Christian station, and the broadcast was entitled something like Creation Moment, and stated a fact that apparently, I never did find out if this is true or not, but apparently the Komodo dragon has the similar function of the lizards on the Virgin Islands, that they have the ability to expel sea salt from a gland in their noses, as you've probably seen footage of on National Geographic. Well, apparently the Komodo dragon has the same mechanism inside of its nose, but doesn't use it. Well, at least not to my knowledge, or that anyone's ever observed. And I hear an argument that creationists try to use a lot, that, of non-functioning appendages, wings, the gland in the nose of the lizards, as I mentioned, that 2 completely different species apparently have the same features. Yeah. Human men have nipples, okay? That doesn't mean anything. While I do believe in a God, but not the personified God that Christians, Jews, or Muslims believe in. I don't see God as a personified being that tells us what to do and where to go and all this stuff. I prefer to think of it as a force. Not the Force from Star Wars to say, but heaven is not a place, it's more of a state of being. I don't believe in an eternal afterlife. Reincarnation makes a lot more sense to me. But anyway, the fact that these creatures are born with these appendages doesn't mean anything. Dolphins are born with vestigial bones in the back parts of their bodies. They look like little oval pieces of bone. So far as we know, they're not used for anything, but they still have them. Doesn't prove who made them out of what. It just means that they're there, okay? And if that does back your argument that God created every single living thing on earth, you know what else that proves? That proves that your God is capable of making mistakes. That right there invalidates a whole range of your other arguments that homosexuality is against the Bible. Well, God doesn't make mistakes. Well, according to your previous statement, yes, he does. And not that there's anything wrong with that. It makes more sense to me, speaking in, excuse me, I stuttered again. I do that from time to time. As a painter, and I do paint, I'm an artist also, looking at the work of many different artists, even without a physical signature in the bottom or in the corner of that painting, there are just telltale things that the artist puts about himself into his work. There's a huge difference between... You can spot a Monet right away, even if you're not a Monet fan. And having seen several of his work for myself, which I'm not a Monet fan, which was absolutely incredible nonetheless, you do notice these things, that there are little signatures, I guess you could say, in the work of the artist. When human beings design a machine such as a car, they can't help. The creative mind that's working these ideas out onto paper or a computer is putting a little piece of themselves, in a way, into the design of this machine. Now, human beings being flawed, the paintings, the cars, the computers themselves even, because they are made by man, are also, even in the slightest of ways, flawed. You hear about car and computer recalls all the time. So, if there is a God that makes mistakes, wouldn't it just make sense that God is flawed as well?